Randy Adkins Jr. suffered a tragic loss of his 19-year-old younger brother over 20 years ago. Although that was devastating and a time of feeling helpless, it was also a time filled with questions that caused Randy to self reflect and make life choices. Today, he is going to share with us what he has learned that will also help each of us grow.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Randy Adkins Jr. creatively weaves his experiences as a corporate consultant, an ordained minister, a community leader, and a distinguished Toastmaster into a tapestry. I love that. Inspiring observers to integrate spiritual growth principles into everyday life. Randy also has a passion to create lasting change in lives through writing, teaching, and speaking. He is an altruistic leader, an organizational visionary, captivating speaker, and respected advisor with a mission to inspire individuals to be leaders and go-getters. I don't know about you, but I'm already getting inspired, and I look forward to hearing what your story is and what you're going to share with us today, Randy. So, welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope.
Hey, Carol, it is wonderful to be on your podcast today. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so let's start with your story of what happened with your brother, as I shared in the.
Yeah, it was many 20 years ago. And at the time, I believe I was just at home. We ended up getting a call that my 19-year-old brother was in a major car accident, and that we needed to come to the hospital. And more than, I believe it was 85% of his body had been burned. And
Oh,
really, in the end, ended up, they took him to a burn unit and all of that, and we were all there. And that was
oh,
really the only way that I got to see him, was all bandaged up. And so he did pass away later that evening. And it was difficult because he was my younger brother. We had grown up, and he was one that even slept in my bed when he was a little toddler. And, you remember all of
right.
the times that you had conversations and
Oh,
just aids and helps. And so it was a very tough loss for me. And as that, seeing him at only 19, and, like, you think of someone, you'd be like, they have so much more life. But of
right.
course, the timing was at that moment. And for me at the time, it was you feel very hopeless. You feel in a place of, at any moment, I was hoping he would just walk through the front door and maybe this wasn't real. And, but it never really occurred that way. And about 6 months later, it was around Christmas time, and my mother said she had went up to her office space and read through some things, and she found this letter on the computer. And the letter was something that my brother wrote on the computer, and she printed it out, read it to the entire family over that Christmas time. And I have this letter today. And
Oh,
in that letter, he stated how excited and happy he was about me and being his
oh,
older brother and all the things that I was accomplishing at like I was a young 25 and he was looking up to me. And I never felt that at the times when I was talking to him that I was making that type of impact. But the letter just described those things. And in that moment, you know, all of the months before that, I was just feeling in a fog, feeling lost. I made a decision that regardless of what may be ahead, I never know the impact that I may be having when I'm sharing a
right,
story,
right.
passing on information. And I may not see it externally, but I know that if I do what I'm supposed to do, that I will continue to make that impact. So from that day forward, I said I'm going to continue to go down that path and share in as many ways as I can to impact others. And so that's the story. And it was definitely a very tragic and difficult loss for our entire family.
And so, how have you taken steps to do just that?
Yeah, the steps are really the focus on the things that um, will make me and my gifting show up in life. And the focus is to do things and share things with people, even sometimes if it's just a smile, or
Mm,
for me to study and learn about this life that, people can have more joy, can be more excited about life. And I was not a minister at the time, and it was probably that next year I did have a call to be able to share and in the ministry to be able to pass along information. And then as the years have gone on, I've learned to share not only through speaking or ministering or writing, but being able to pass along information that will help people in their lives. And a lot of times I get feedback from the most insignificant things I think in my life. They were like, "You told me
mm.
such and such," or "You smiled at me at whatever," and you're like, "I didn't know that I made an impact." And that's the idea, and it's a focus. It's just the focus to be. I'm going to focus on the gifting that I have. I am not going to focus on gifting that anyone else has. I'm going to look forward to really focusing on the things that come easy to me, and that's really what is helpful to be able to make that impact every day.
And people sense that empathy.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's like a magnet. That's an attraction because it's evident, even though you're not aware, like you just said, of of doing it. People are drawn to you, I'm sure, for that. And so thank you for sharing that part of your story. What happened to bring you to the place of your book? Why you wrote it?
And as an ordained minister, I ended up having a lot of people not being very happy with their lives. They wake up in the morning
Mm,
and they are really down about maybe it's because of the weather that day they're down, or their circumstances of they look in their bank account and there's not enough money, or the relationships that they have are not what they expected them to be. And I know that as life is and what we have, regardless of our external circumstances, that there is a
mm.
way for us to live with joy, peace, love, happiness, and excitement for the possibilities of what the day can hold. And that was the reason I wrote the book, Produce on Purpose, Experience Life Being the Real You, because I felt that there is a path and a way for us to be able to get to a place where we're not just living from the outside in reactionary mode, but that we are actually living in a way where it's from the inside out and we can become the producers of our own lives.
I love what you what you when you're talking about light, what is your life producing? And I was reading your intro. Are you aware of what your life is producing? That is a real causes a lot of stimulating questions and answers, I would think, because it brings it all into perspective, does it not?
It does, because what we are producing, whether you are conscious of it or not conscious of it,
Right.
you are producing something every moment. Every decision that you make, every thought that you have, every move that you make, you are producing something. And as a producer, the question becomes, if you're ready to be the producer of your life, are you going to
Mm,
produce on someone else's story? Or are you going
wow.
to be the one that's going to produce on your story? And so, one of the things I talk about in the book is at the very beginning of the book, and introduces that we're all walking through this life. It's as if we all see on Netflix and all of these different shows that they have these series. You're walking through a series of mini movies in your life, and you get to be the producer. Why be the actor and the actress, even though they get paid all and they get the billboards and everything else, and you see them out front. A lot of times we're acting in our own life instead of being the producer, or you say, well, maybe I'm not the actor or the actress, I'm going to be the director of my life. Well, even the director, even though they get to pan in and pan out and describe maybe how a particular scene or
Mm,
shot is, even the director works for someone, and the producer is the one that actually brings all the resources together. The producer is the one that hires the director, and the director then is putting together other staff and others that are there. So why don't you be the producer of your life and bring on the people? Because all producers, they need support. They need people to help
yep.
them. And we need people to help us in our lives that we are going to produce on the purpose we were born for. And when we do that, that actually changes how your life is. That changes how you see life. That changes how you feel about what's going on in your life. And it actually starts to move you into a place where you can be the producer of your script. You can write the script and you can have others put them together, put the team together and walk through creating your mini movies. And the reason you have mini movies is because we have different seasons in our lives.
Yes.
There was a season when we had children, and just the couple of weeks ago, our last youngest is in college, and so we're empty nesting. So there's a different
Right.
season, and we
Right.
all go through these different seasons. And in one season, you're going to do one thing, and another season, you're going to do something else.
And what happens if you come to a place where you feel stuck?
If you feel stuck, a good thing to do is to take a step back and reflect. And one of the areas that I encourage everyone to do on a consistent basis is, whether you call it prayer or meditation, that you take a step back and you say, ask yourself a question, that what I am doing at this moment, is it serving me? Is it allowing me to be the highest version of myself? And what should I do at this moment to begin to change that that direction, or what I'm doing? And as you are reflecting on that and reflecting on where you are and who you are and what you're about, that will allow for you to start to move into a direction where, even though sometimes we feel stuck, there is movement happening. There is something happening around you, but many times we're just not aware of exactly what's happening. You might feel like you're still, you might feel like you're stuck, but there is something happening, and you want to be aware of what that looks like. And then you can make the right decisions, the choices that are for you, the ones that allow for your purpose to come alive, to be things that impact every person, every situation you're in, that you will then begin to impact it in a new way.
One of the things that you discuss in your book, and I'd like you to share with the audience, is how to be connected in your body, soul, and spirit.
What's important for us is to understand that this physical world is not the only thing that's going on in our lives. And every one of us knows that at a deep level, because at this moment, if I were to just stop and say, brown cat, you have something in your head that actually produces a brown cat in your head. So then that means that there's more to it than your physical body. That you either form that brown cat in your head, and that's something that's mental and that's part of your soul. And so the body is our interaction with our five senses to this physical world that we have. That we are made up of a soul where our mind, our will, and our emotions lie, and that we have the ability to operate, and the movements that we're making first usually come from that soul. We are making decisions and choices. And at the core level of every one of us, we are spirit. And the spirit that we all have that is a part of who we are is the essence of really who you really are. But you have to connect between your spirit, your soul, and your body. And you can, of course, work from the outside in, where everything I get in from my body, I'm going to react. I'm going to have thoughts related to that. And then that is what's going to feed my spirit. And sometimes that's what gets people down, because there's a lot of ups and downs in this world. But if you start with your spirit and you start with connecting to the source of who you are, what you believe in, and what your purpose is in this life, and that you begin to intentionally move in a direction, you can then have that spirit inform your soul. Your soul can always make a choice whether or not you want to go with what the spirit tells you. The spirit doesn't sit there and like a cheerleader yell out. The spirit many times is just saying it in a nice, still, silent voice to say, hey, go this way. And if you are in tune with that, and you are aware of that, and you are willing to allow that to be a guide in your life, you begin to change how you make decisions. Your decisions and actions then change your behaviors, and your behaviors then make you a completely different person in how you interact in this world.
So, is that why you say that we need to think with our heart and not our head? How do people do that?
Yes, and I'm guilty of it. For many, many years, I was what I call a planner. I had multiple plans. I had a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And if I got to plan D, then it probably is just something just really, really wrong. Lots of effort put into that planning, and usually that's using your intellect and your head to do it. And that's usually a natural tendency for many of us, is to go to that place. But our heart, our even in our physical body, our heart has a rhythm. It has an electrical pulse. It has energy to it. It is beating, and the rhythm of that heart is in our lives where your intuition, there is even science that backs up that our gut has, people ever talk about, I had a gut feeling. There's an
Right.
intuition that's there. I always give this example because if you're driving down the road and you look in your rearview mirror and all of a sudden you see blue lights, and immediately you before you even can register what's happening, whether or not those blue lights are for you, you have
Right.
something that happens in your gut that is there. That's your intuition. It doesn't only have to be there when you are in fear, but it's always there. It's always guiding us. It's always sharing something with us. And our heart has a way of being able to connect directly to the essence of who you are, the being that you are, not the doing. We are human beings, not human doings. And so the being of who you are is where your heart is. Your heart is the thing that can guide us if we listen to it. And we can take a step back in our practices and who we are and our prayers, that we listen to the heart, listen to what's in the spirit. Because if we listen to the heart, the heart can then inform the head instead of the head trying to inform what you do on a daily basis. The head doesn't really have any other backing. But if you continue to move by your heart, there's a rhythm, there's a flow that you will move about in this life because that heart will guide you. It will tell you what to say to a person, and the person will be like, "You told me the exact right thing at this moment that I needed to hear."
Right, right.
There's somebody listening right now, whoever the audience is they're going to hear the exact right thing because the heart is listening out to be able to share that information at the right time. And when we are able to operate there, you no longer have to come up with all of these plans. I'm a recovering planner. I can I don't plan like that. I am going to be led every day, and it's a tough shift. You
Right.
have to continue to practice it on a daily basis to say, I'm not going to plan, I'm going to be led. And as we're being led, the heart can give you exactly what you need. And I trust that every day, and that
Amen.
I will be able to be in the right place at the right time, and that guiding and that leading will happen through the heart.
100%. Thank you. What did you mean by this in your book? The value found in seasons of transition.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another: gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
That is when I do talk about the loss of my brother in the book. And in fact, I have a chapter in the book that talks about um, midnight. Midnight is an interesting time in
Mm,
every day that we have. It is in between night and in between morning of a new day. And many times we're caught in these midnight places in our lives. And midnight can represent a time of uncertainty, a time of in between. I'm no longer what I used to be, but I know I'm supposed to move into something
mm,
new. It's a transition period, and sometimes it's dealing with the seasons of our lives, the times of our lives where there we know that we have different seasons, whether it's fall, winter, summer, and or we have spring. You can have these seasons that change, and every season something's different. And in our life, that's what happens is we end up with different seasons and different transitions. And maybe it's the loss of a loved one, that you are in a place where you are in transition, and there's much to learn in these places of transition. We're not here to suffer in transition. We're here to learn in transition. When we learn in that transition period, yes, when you get to the morning, yes, when you get to that new season, you will be in a different place. There will be a new normal. We all saw that when we had the pandemic for COVID, is that there was a season we started saying pre COVID, and then what was after COVID, because all of us changed because the whole world went through that season together. And in transitions, we learn a lot. We learn about ourselves. We learn about the relationships that we have. We learn about how we are to act and shift. For me personally, when my brother passed and I had a decision and a choice to make, I could have really, in these moments, you can move away, further away from what God is to you or your source in your life, and or you can grow closer and be more connected. For me, during that time, I ended up growing closer to God, and finding that particular relationship was paramount to what I needed to do and how I needed to move about my purpose in life. So these seasons of transitions can reveal so much about us. And we should look at these transitions as times in our lives where we can learn so much and we can become that better version of ourselves that we are supposed to be. You're going to now live in your potential, live in that place where you are that best version, that you are showing up the way that you should always show up, that you can be who you need to be. But it's in these transitions we learn so much.
And one more thing that you had about your book that intrigued me was how to live a life of overflow that glorifies God. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, just like a glass. If I take an empty glass and I fill it with water, and I continue to fill that glass with water until it gets all the way to its full, as soon as I put another drop of water, the water will start to overflow outside of it. When we allow for the Spirit of God to really envelop everything that we do and who we are, we can be like that glass that's beginning to fill. And when you allow that to be filling in your life, you will begin to overflow and touch others in a particular way. Not only people, but I'm talking about this world. And so everything in this world will then be affected by the overflow of God's Spirit in your life, by the love that you share. Because remember, in scripture, it says God is love. Then you're going to be overflowing with love in everything that you do. Your speech will be in love, your touch will be in love, how you smell will be in love. How you go about your life will be in love. How you talk to others will be in love. And when we are in that space of overflow, there is no room for anything else. There's no room for other things that sometimes distract us from the most important things of life. I'm always reminded that there was a book that I had read many years ago, Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And he has a chapter that says, begin with the end in mind. And when we remember that we are going to affect this world in a greater way, and that we are going to touch this world in a nice way that will change everything that's around us, you would begin to live in this overflow that nothing else is going to distract me. When the day comes and I'm at the end, am I going to be worried about my car or my house or that one argument that I had? No, you're going to want the relationships around you. You're going to want the family around you. You're going to want the people that you care about around you. All of the rest of these things of this world, they become of no value. And if we remember that and keep that in front of us, then we are going to always be able to move in a direction that is going to give us the highest value to others, the highest value of love to this world, and be able to change the world through us being what we were always born to be.
And how do we specifically teach that to our children?
You demonstrate it, because one thing about children is they learn how to model at the youngest ages. With children, they are always watching us. And I remember when I was younger, people would, at one point, I think it was my parents, they said, do what I say, not as I do. That's confusing for a child.
Right.
You have to align what you are doing and the modeling of living the life, and whatever we do and we practice consistently, the disciplines that we have in our lives, in the small consistent measures that we do, that is what makes a difference. That is what continues to allow for these changes and these shifts to be passed on to the next generation, to be passed on to children, because children will model what they see. Even
Right.
as they grow, they will model what they see. And many times we're just looking at, and when we look at our children and we look at the people that we're around, we're seeing a reflection of who we are and how we are doing. And it's funny because it goes back to the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated.
Right.
We are passing that along to our children by modeling it on a daily basis. And we aren't perfect, none of us are. And so we have to be able to show to our children that we're not perfect. And that's something that sometimes I think we don't share enough of with the next generation, is that there are failures that we all have. We all will always, there will be times when we're not going to get it right. But
Right.
let our children know that we didn't get it right, but we acknowledge it, and then we move forward, and then they learn how to do that, because that's the difference, that's the change that will allow for that love to be shared in a greater way in this world.
So, in conclusion, first of all, if there's anything that you want to add that you have not already said, and also who should buy your book?
I will share this. It's anyone that is looking to be a producer of their own life. They want to live with joy. They want to experience fulfillment in their lives. They want to have peace. Peace is so valuable. Once you have
Right.
peace in your life and you can let go of all of the distractions and different things in your life, the book will help you down that path. And on the front of the book, on the cover, it has a mask on the book, because there's a theme in the book that sometimes we show up with mask on, that
Yes, yes.
we're trying to impress others, and we're trying to show up the way someone else wants us to show up. But one of the most freeing things that we can all have, and it's something that you can do. The mask is cracked on the front of the book, and it has a
Mm,
seedling coming out of it. The reason for that is that we can all have those masks broken off by having seeds of vision that are seeds that are going to continue to work within our purpose and our meaning and who we are. And so if you're someone grappling with the idea of, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Or not only that, but maybe you know what you're supposed to be doing, but you want to be able to do it in a fuller way, in a greater way. This book will help in that process. And so
mm.
that's for anyone that wants to do that. And as a final parting word, I always love to share this, is that we all have a choice. We can take a look at every day as a thermometer. The thermometer is so good at telling me how hot it is outside. It tells me what the degrees are. It definitely is a very good way of observing what's happening outside and what's happening and going on. The other part of it is that you can choose to be that thermometer and say, my life is looking like this. And it may not be very happy. It may not be. And so you're just telling about all your problems, all of the issues that you have, all of the different things. My bank account doesn't have this, or my family is doing this. And the thermometer is really good at doing that. But my challenge to everyone is not to be a thermometer, but be a thermostat, because a thermostat actually can adjust the degrees. And when the thermostat comes into the room, in whatever room it is, it changes the temperature. You have the ability to do that in everything that you do. You have the ability to do that, to walk into rooms and change the temperature. It may not be a very good room when you walk in, but when you walk in, you brought the love, the light in a dark place. You have the ability to do that on a daily basis. So I challenge everyone, don't just be a thermometer, be a thermostat.
I love that. Wow, that is so well stated. Thank you. And also, I love the cover and I appreciate the explanation. It definitely caught my eye. And I'm sure that you have already reached many people. And I really appreciate what you shared with this audience today. So I thank you so much, Randy, for being
Yes.
on Never Ever Give Up Hope. This was truly inspiring. I made lots of notes, as I'm sure that many people will appreciate what you have shared with us today. So again, thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate being on.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there.
Hi, this is Carol Graham with Praying for Miracles with Carol. I want to extend a special invitation to all of you or any of you who have not yet joined us for the Pray the Answer webinar. We meet by Zoom every other Thursday. And the subjects that we discuss, I know will be of interest to you. The comments that we are receiving are absolutely mind-blowing for me personally, how lives are being changed as a result of having the opportunity to discuss things that maybe there's no other platform out there that are discussing them. And because you have an opportunity at that point to ask your questions, we can interact from any place in the world. And they are usually an hour long, but if we have more questions and we have time, there's no time limit, and we will extend it to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask the questions regarding the subject that we're talking about. And I look forward to seeing you. I thank you for your support. And just to give you a little rundown of some of the subjects that we have covered or are going to cover would be the subject of praise. This is huge, and understanding how praise affects us in every area of our spiritual walk. Things like fear, things like conviction of the Holy Spirit. What is the difference between faith and hope? How often do I need to confess my sins? What is a doer of the word? What does that mean? And one subject that we probably will cover in different areas is New Age and how it is creeping into the church. How do we recognize it? What do we do about it? Another subject is the law versus grace, another area where a lot of Christians do not understand how to walk in grace and not be walking in condemnation and guilt under the law. So these are just a few of the subjects. Also, you have an opportunity to not only ask your questions about what we're discussing, but share if there are other things that you would like to talk about in the future. So I look forward to seeing you. Just go to prayingmiracles.com. This is a free webinar. There is no charge for you. And also, if you share it with your friends, that would be great, and I appreciate that as well. So we'll see you at prayingmiracles.com. All you have to do is register, and you will be part of our group. Thank you.
Feeling stuck in your prayer life? You're not alone. Join Pray the Answer webinar led by prayer coach Carol Graham. Each session will help you shift from fear to faith and from worry to worship. Learn how to pray God's word and receive real answers. Visit prayingmiracles.com to register today.